This is Quantum Flow Radio, organizing thought particles into a flow of collective consciousness.
So here we are.
Here we are.
How are you?
Great.
Good. You always say great.
Yeah. Well, isn't that the normal response?
It is. You're planting the seed.
Sure.
Yeah. And
yeah. If I told you the real truth of how I felt, it'd be a long, elaborated response.
Yeah. I don't know if I have that much hard drive space.
You ask. That's actually a really good question, because when it comes down to it, when you ask somebody how they're doing, they're going to say fine, great. Mm-hmm. But there's always two sides to that.
There is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was my own. By the way, thanks for coming all the way over here. This is awesome.
Yeah.
In my own experiences, I find that if I deny that which is happening at that moment, it's just a lie. And I know everyone that I've read over the years says to, affirm your health, affirm positive feelings, affirm this and that, all these good things. But when you're not there, and that isn't your present moment experience, it's difficult for me. It's almost like I'm trying to lie to myself. So I did find an alternative way of looking at that, and it is just to redirect thought. Rather than lie to myself and say, I am great, I am fine, I am wonderful, I am healthy, I just choose another thought and try to redirect my ego mind from being, stuck in that mode.
Right. Well, we all say great or good because we don't want to get into it with people. Certain people were okay with having a deeper conversation, but what it comes down to is there's a lot going on.
Yeah, and if you said, no, I'm really not doing that well, do they care?
Very few people really would. They'd acknowledge that, and then they'd say, hey, sorry, or hope you're feeling better. But then they'd want to move on.
Yeah, but and is it because they may not care, or is it because they just don't know what to do to make it better?
Or
is it both?
It's both, but it's also this. They've been desensitized over time. Those gatherings you go with the family and you run into the people and you say, how are you doing? And the guy goes on about his gallbladder operation, all the problems he's having, on for about 10 minutes. And you're like, you want to be nice and respectful, but, you want to run out of there.
Yeah.
I mean, you care, but you can only do so much. There's nothing I can do. I don't know how to perform a gallbladder surgery or help them out or anything.
Yeah, there's no app for that.
No, there's no app. Not yet.
Yeah.
Soon.
Yeah, but here's the other thing with me. I'm such an empath at times. So, excuse me, if I go up to somebody and I say, if it's the guy with the gallbladder operation, and he says, oh, I'm still in a lot of pain, blah, blah, blah. I can't really sit there and talk with him about that for long, because then I begin to absorb it.
Sure. You're an empath.
I start having that pain, and I start sharing it with him.
Everybody has the potential to be an empath, but very few people really are truly empaths and can feel what other people are going through. And these are special people, and these people right now, and I consider myself one of them, through all the stuff I've been through,
sure.
And you too.
Yeah.
The fact is that, we're feeling a lot of energy right now. It's very thick, and I think a lot of people are just fluffing it off, saying, hey, yeah, I'm good, everything's fine. They don't tell you about the money problems, the health problems, the worries that they have at work. But there's just a lot of pressures in modern day society.
There's a lot of illusion too, because the illusion is that we are individuals. But the truth is that we are an individualized essence of the entirety of the whole. So basically, in order to experience being an empath, experience that empathetic way of being, we have to know, recognize, accept, and feel the divine connection of all things. The universe, is one thing. It's one organism, and we are all an integral part of that entire thing.
Yeah.
You see, and that's where...
Well, it's kind of a matrix.
It is. It absolutely is. The matrix of consciousness. Max Planck termed it the consciousness matrix, or
Sure.
the matrix of consciousness.
But we're all connected into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we have to be, but there has to be some sort of, I don't know if it's cognitive dissonance or if it's just unacceptance, whatever it is. But if you look back and you say, okay, well, where did that tree come from? Well, it came from that forest. Okay, well, if it came from that forest, then all those trees that are in that forest came from that forest. And where was the source of that forest? So it goes all the way back, all the way back, all the way back to one seed that contained everything that we see in that forest in the one seed. So with us, we go all the way back to source.
Sure.
So you came from your mom, okay, the creative divine mother of the universe, okay, if you want to look at it that way. But where did she come from? Where did she come from? And then before that, until you trace it all the way back, like rays of the sun, it goes all the way back to the source. So when you're able to do that, when you're able to actually understand that and accept it, then you realize, hey, we're all brothers and sisters. We're all this one thing, trying to work together in harmony rather than, disharmony.
And with that being said, and if that really is truth, then why would we want to hurt anybody else? And that kind of comes down as everybody else is an extension of you, or you are everyone else. You are one,
Exactly.
the one source, universal energy. People need to kind of wake up to the fact that everybody is your brother and sister. So
And there is no other.
no, there is no other. And so all these race wars and the political wars, and
Religious
the religious wars. I mean, just it goes on and on. People must come to terms that when they harm someone else, in essence, they're doing harm to themselves.
Exactly.
Whether you could call it karma, I mean, that's kind of a boiled down, simple explanation, but I just think it's all energy.
Yeah.
And you put out bad, negative energy, it's kind of like what you're going to receive.
Yeah, and while you're talking about karma, some of the things for me, karma is an ancient Sanskrit word. It means doing. That's it. It just simply means doing. So whatever it is you think or act upon is your doing. Whatever the outcome is, whatever is manifest in form is your doing. However, what is never really discussed or considered is what's called race karma. So it's not only everything I think, do, and act upon that's creating that reality, but it's what everybody is thinking, acting, and doing to create the reality that we're all in. So until we can reach a point of perfection, until everyone thinks correctly instead of in error, until everyone acts correctly instead of in error, or sin, however you want to look at it, sin is missing the mark. So we're all missing the mark. But how do you hit the mark? You just keep practicing. You get
but
better at it.
Is perfection even achievable? I don't know. In this dimension, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I think that ultimately that's the source goal. It's like, you can read all these books about swimming and you become an aficionado about swimming. But if you never got in the water,
True.
how do you know that it's even real? How do you know that it's even true? So you have to have the experience. So this source energy, God, whatever you want to call it, is experiencing all of these truths
Right.
and laws through us, so that ultimately everybody can go, well, yeah, I guess that's true because I felt it. I lived it.
Right.
I sourced it.
And today they're putting people into positions of power that have very little experience in that field, figuring, hey, this person is the PC person that's going to be the front of our organization or company or whatever. But in reality, they know very little bit about what you actually do.
Yeah, and unfortunately, in people of high places politically, let's not go, high places globally,
Right.
because that's entirely different. But high places politically that are stuck in a literal historical translation of ancient scriptures and are looking at these deep truths as only history and literary works without seeing the deeper image, the deeper message, reading between the lines and getting the gist of the story that's being told. Stop looking so much at the story and try to see what truth lies within that story, what's actually being said. But see, unfortunately, high-level politicians are, I'm not going to name religious groups. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that, they're believing what they were taught. They're regurgitating everything that they had picked up all of these years. And it's not helping anybody.
No, they're extracting kind of only part of the story. And
Right.
without knowing kind of the source of it, nothing will ever really get corrected.
Right.
And an example would be, so many people talk about, it could be any modern, societal topic. And if in fact they only tell you like what happened, but not why it happened.
Right.
Yeah. And so this is the deficit that our news media is happening is occurring right now. They're only giving you a smidgen of the story and no backstory.
In the medical community, I mean, I don't want to sidetrack too much here, but in the medical community, at least in Western medicine, it's all about treating symptoms.
Right.
Without finding the source of the cause that's creating the symptoms.
Right.
Same thing emotionally, same thing spiritually. We have to find the source of all of these things.
And I'm going to really equate it to something that's very tangible that everybody is listening to on the radio right now. This Russia interference in our elections. That's a good example. It's regurgitated every 2 seconds on the news. The Russia meddled with our elections, but they never really. I mean, sure, they put ads on Facebook and stuff, but they never really drill down on that because they know that once you do, the story just kind of dissipates.
Right.
And hey, I think every country's meddling in everybody else's, and I'm sure we meddle in other people's elections. Yeah. This is the way the world is. But the fact is I don't think that people were leading people to the polling centers and forcing them to vote a certain way.
No,
and that's the consciousness that's kind of coming to fruition now. It's coming up. By the way, I'm going to step back here for a second. I don't want to lose anybody, but if you haven't noticed, we'll talk about anything,
yeah,
and
exactly.
It's kind of like a stream of consciousness. But if you're with us, great. We're just going to continue to talk and touch upon all these, topics
because we love to talk.
Well, who doesn't?
And I'm seldom. I'll say seldom offended by you. No,
well,
I'm never offended by you.
No,
So
hey.
It's just an open discussion. We're free to just throw it all on the table and say, okay, what do you think of that?
Well, being open-minded is a good thing as long as your mind doesn't fall out, I guess. But the fact is that a lot of people don't have time or want to invite what if. The
Right.
questions that we might tackle here.
Sure.
But I just we'll try to tackle them in a common sense, layman's type of way, so it connects to everybody.
Yeah.
But
I
at any
like
rate,
that. You mentioned open-minded.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because first rule of universal law is that the universe is mentalism. It's all mental. Everything is thought energy, essentially. So having
where does your thought start?
In there?
And yeah, is it,
And
but
so,
is it your heart or is it your mind? Because it physically emanates from somewhere.
it depends on what's speaking.
Yes.
Because it could be spirit emanating
Ooh.
from heart.
Yeah.
It could be your GPS, your internal guidance system. It could be your ego operating through your sensory perception.
More than likely, the ego is involved.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And we need the ego.
Oh yeah,
You know.
you can't survive without it. But
But it was never meant to lead.
no. In fact, that's probably one of the greatest problems we have right now, where the ego prevents many people from inviting new information. They think they have it already.
Yeah.
I know it. Got it. I know what life's about. I know about this and that. I was told. I learned. I went to one of the best schools.
Right.
This is what they'll tell people.
Yeah.
And they're obviously in a job that's paying well, that has a position of somewhat importance.
Mm-hmm.
And they think they have it nailed down.
Right. But I never learned anything from anyone that I agreed with.
No, of course not.
Never.
That's
And so ego. I have to think back because being an ordained metaphysical minister, I look back on certain elements of Scripture in all civilizations, and there's a great line in the New Testament Bible where it says, it's Jesus talking with Peter, and they're off to go somewhere and take care of some business, and Peter's all antsy about let's go, and Jesus says to him, "Get behind thee, Satan." And so the literal historical perspective on that is, well, Satan, got into Peter and possessed him at that moment, and okay, that's fine. I don't know, I wasn't there, but the deeper metaphysical meaning is that Christ, Jesus, represents the Christ consciousness, the actual divine spark of source God within each and every one of us that knows better. And Peter represents ego.
yes.
So the point being in that particular clip is let spirit lead and ego follow. But so many times ego wants to get in front. You have a thought about something, and
Ego always wants to drive.
Right, exactly. And he's like, hey, I did this before. I've been there before. And by the way, you remember how you acted the last time you were there, all that stuff.
We've all had friends, acquaintances, relatives that have such a huge ego. A lot of people accuse the president of having the biggest ego, but like you said, you need it. It's almost a little bit of a defense mechanism. But when it gets to the point where you're not being truthful with yourself, you're not being open, you're not hearing. Wise men always said, "You're never gonna listen very well if you keep talking."
Right.
So.
Yes.
Yeah.
The beauty is,
and
of
of course,
silence.
we're guilty of talking, but hopefully, we're listening here to each other.
We are.
I may not agree with everything you say either, but the fact is that you bring new consciousness to my thoughts, and then I'm able to maybe open up new pathways and explore and have that new experience, and that's kind of like what it's all about. I wanted to go back. You mentioned Satan, and I think that Satan is literally one in one with some of this egotistic, narcissistic,
directions.
Yeah, well, just what people are doing. I mean,
Right.
it's almost they've gone to the dark side. I don't know how else to quantify it, but
Satan is derived from the Hebrew term Hasatan, which is also directly connected to Set in the ancient Egyptian mysticism. The sunset is basically when the Son of God is killed by the evil brother, the evil twin. I mean, there's just a lot of things that go on with this word, but in essence, it means the opposer or opposition. So whatever it is that's in opposition of the default of goodness or perfection, or at least the stride for perfection, is a Satan. So, for example, if you put God and Satan in front of each other, God is Satan to Satan.
right.
And Satan is Satan to God. Or well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're both in opposition of each other.
Yeah, and this is where we're coming to a time where everything is inverted.
Yes.
Everything is the opposite of what you think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to be disrespectful to some very smart people out there who think they have it nailed down, but you may not, and
Right.
you're going to be surprised. And this is a time right now. I feel the energy is basically just kind of percolating. I'm not sure if we're to the point of bubbling. It's close.
Yeah.
Where all these energies and all these consciousness are kind of going, hey, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
Am I being controlled by Satan, or am I in the love of God? And not that this is a religious,
No, but the terminology is there for all to understand. I mean, everybody has their God, everyone has their Satan, or their image of it all,
But this is really where we're headed. Everyone talks, Bible prophecies. The end times are going to be good versus evil, and I see that very clearly, at least in just about everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's permeated into just every social thing that we do, all the cult, music,
Right.
movies,
Right.
even literature. I mean,
Right.
a lot of these books that are being written right now, none of them possess any truth in it.
No.
I mean, and they're supposed to be nonfiction.
Yeah, and and youth don't even really have books
And
anymore.
they're literally, these books are trying to defend a criminal or an illegal position where it's got to come out at some point. It can't. The truth cannot continue to be hidden. If the
No,
truth
and it's like an air bubble in the bottom of a lake. Eventually, it'll find its way to the top.
But for some of us, this air bubble's taking a long time.
It
to
really
get
is a bunch of rocks on top of it.
Something's holding it down.
Yeah, and you talk about these energies, and I agree with you 100%. These energies are convoluted in a way.
Confusing.
Yeah,
right now.
because they're just a big mess. It's like an intersection where no light is green or red, and it's just a free-for-all. So in order for energy, because all is energy, even Einstein, basically proved that, in order for energy to manifest into form or matter, it has to begin a process of congealing, right? So it begins to, get like sticking Jell-O in the fridge. You know what I mean? And then eventually it goes from liquid form to, solid form and all that stuff. But that's essentially how we manifest matter is it's energy that has congealed. But most of the time it needs some unity.
Gelatin.
Gelatin.
There you go. It's the
Exactly.
connect. Yeah,
exactly. Jell-O.
So isn't the gelatin like the sugary stuff that
Right. So what we have going on now is, psst, hey buddy, come here, I got to talk to you. You know what I mean? It's all these distractions. You're being bombarded everywhere by TV screens and sports channels and long lines of people that are on their cell phones and talking to people and playing games and all of this stuff. I really missed the days of the Holiday Inn Lounge, where, you could just meet a couple of buds and go in and somebody be sitting at the piano. You order a drink, you sit down, and
they'd have a guy at the piano
talk.
and a girl singing, and
Right.
that's it at the Holiday Inn.
And you could hear
Friday
each
night.
other.
Yeah, true.
You could actually have a conversation, and nobody had a cell phone.
No.
It was a weird time.
Yeah, but you bring the distraction that's occurring
Yeah.
is at an all-time high.
Yeah.
The question is this by design?
Yeah.
And who designed it?
Right.
And why do they want everyone to be distracted?
Yeah.
And I may have an answer to that, but I invite you to.
No, I
Well,
agree with you entirely. I mean, it's like the ancient Romans had a concept that they called bread and circus.
Yeah.
And what bread and circus was, is keep the public fed, keep them entertained, and we can do whatever we want right under their nose. They won't even know about it.
Right.
It's a shell game.
Except today, maybe it's cupcakes, beer, and football or something.
Right,
But it doesn't
exactly.
matter. The fact is that
it's the concept.
it's the concept, and it's worked. We saw it in Roman times. In fact, that's why I like talking to you, because you always come up with these great historical facts that kind of reconfirm what's going on in today's world. Also, you always come up with these great words and define them for people, and I think people enjoy that. Because words are important.
They are.
They all have very much meaning and roots, and if we figure out their origins, we can better use them
Exactly.
in
And
our
see,
language today.
We use the word
Word.
without really knowing what the word means.
Word up.
Word up.
Yes.
So word is directly translated from a Greek word called logos, which is also the archetype of what we call God, the logos.
There you go
See?
again, and it's beautiful. I love what you're saying.
So when it's translated into English, which is a very poor language to translate from Greek into English, it becomes word, because logos is also a word, Logia is words, but used properly, like, for example, in the New Testament, first in Book of John, I think it's John 1, it says that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So modern Christianity would say that Jesus Christ is the Word of God, but that's not what it says. You go back to the original Greek, in the beginning was the was the logos word, and the logos was with theos, God, And the Logos was God. So now you have a concept being defined, an archetype of what God is, spelled out right there.
Right.
But when we go to English, it just gets lost.
The word logos, does that relate to the word logo, which is actually branding of us? And,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's,
so
it's an
there's
archetype. It
yeah.
stands for something.
Yeah, so
You know,
it's
the
almost
golden
as,
arches are a McDonald's logo.
Yeah,
You see the
and-
golden arches, you know it's McDonald's.
and it's almost as if that one snapshot is boiled down to a word, whatever it would be.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So words are cool. I love them.
Well, sure, but we have to be careful. People are offended by words nowadays.
They
I mean,
are.
it's and that's where we have to kind of get beside ourselves. In that, words are they're very powerful. They have distinct meaning.
It's only words.
Oh God, he's gonna
Right?
sing. Okay, it's only the fact that
Was that Bee Gees? I think it was Bee Gees.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And we'll get back to the music part of how it's been infiltrated by Satan and what's been going on with it. But
Yeah.
but the words, ultimately, if you can rise above it, they won't affect you.
Yeah.
You'll take them in, and what I find the best thing for me to navigate and digest everything on a daily basis is, I listen, I take everything in as best I can. I don't react like I used to. I'd want to debate people, but I take it in, and then I kind of just, acknowledge it. But then I'm careful with my word selection or how I'll react
Sure.
to what I'm being
It's
told.
the
or
old
what I
count
say.
to 10.
Yeah, and it's amazing. It's what patience will do in a conversation, because you can really rise above and get out of the fray. Too many people right now want to debate and argue.
Yeah.
Um,
You know what my trick word is, or my trick question is, what if there was something more? I always do that.
What if there was something more?
Yeah. So, for example, if somebody wants to talk about, I don't know, archaeological biblical stuff, or, the walls of Jericho, or
You couldn't pick something simple, could you?
No, I can't. So it would be, instead of saying, well, no, that never really happened. Like I said, I wasn't there. So no. But if instead of saying
Well, you weren't.
anything that, yeah, I was. I just don't remember.
Oh, you were, but yeah.
Yeah. So instead of saying something that's immediately going to build a wall, because the minute you say something against somebody's current belief system, the wall goes up.
Yeah.
The protection, the uniform, the helmet, everything, full gear, shoulder pads, they're ready. So what I like to do is just go right into, well, what if there was something more? What if there's more to that story than just what you were told?
I think that's one of the best approaches, because you're literally you're upsetting the foundation of what a lot of people's existence
Sure.
is based on.
Yeah.
And you're threatening just the core beliefs.
Yeah, and I don't wanna do that.
But no, you don't. Because then they'll think that you know more, and then they're going to think, he's calling me stupid, or,
Ego.
ego. Hey, there you go. It gets back. Yeah. And so,
Peter's back.
yeah, Peter's back.
Yeah. So I agree with you entirely in this whole thing. And I've learned through the years, through all my studies and, your studies with, your book and being an author and things like that, that there are ways of approaching people individually and collectively that are less offensive than just blurting something out.
You see that too. There's a defense mechanism that people use, and it either can be a violent response, or it could be kind of a more chill response where people go, maybe there is more.
Yeah.
But typically you get the first.
Yeah,
Instead
you do.
of
It's like
you get
bumping
the-
into
instead of
somebody
the ladder.
walking down the sidewalk. Ego goes, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Hey, yeah.
But spirit goes, "Oh, geez, dude, I am so sorry. I didn't even see you there."
Yeah.
Big difference. One starts a fight, the other one perhaps a friendship.
This all comes down to inner consciousness and how you interact with other people. Are they a part of you, or do you feel that they're separate and they threaten you?
Yeah.
And when you come to terms again that you're part of this oneness,
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
it's coming. I feel it. I'd say since 2012, there's been significant movements and change, I think, in human consciousness. I see people
agree.
waking up by the droves, mass people, and it's not just here in America. It's a worldwide phenomenon that's going on. And for those that kind of sat back and saw this unfolding, it is taking a long time, but we must understand that you can't just shove. This is heavy, heavy, heavy stuff.
Right.
This is it, man.
Yeah.
This is
This
life.
is it.
This
Yep.
is this is what it's all about. And if you
and
throw
thank
that
God
on
for the
somebody,
internet. I mean, the internet is good and bad, like all things.
well, let's
you
talk
know.
about the internet because I would say it's the number one thing that's changed things.
Absolutely.
You
The
know,
information highway. Right?
look, we're old enough to know, like, if you wanted to know something when when you were growing up, when you were 15, you
Library.
didn't, library, exactly.
Encyclopedia.
How many options did you have?
Not very many.
No.
Yeah.
Go to the library and look it up, and then remember you go to the, what was that, the periodic.
Oh, yeah, the cards.
Catalog or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I mean, come on, there had to have been an easier way to find a book.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was just like, I remember the opening scene in Ghostbusters when they're in the New York Public Library and the entity goes flailing down the aisle where all the little Rolodex things are, and they just go flying everywhere. I'm thinking, oh my God, that's going to take 5 years to put that back together again.
Or longer.
And meanwhile, we can just do it on our phone now.
Yeah,
you know?
the easeability. It's almost like when you look back at Star Trek. It's like, what? They're talking through there. What is that?
Yeah.
I guess people
I'm
are
just waiting for teleporting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's next.
Yeah.
Who's to say that doesn't exist? A lot of things as I go through life, I realize that if you can think it
Yeah.
and manifest it in your mind, it may actually really be real somewhere.
Yep, a great Gnostic leader in the Gnostic tradition, Samael Aun-Weor is his name, writes of his ability to teleport. He would just say that, I have to be in Italy for a meeting in an hour,
Right.
and he's in Philly, and
Sure.
off he goes,
There you go.
and he's in Italy.
It's just a time machine, except it's all within your.
Yeah, and like I always say, I wasn't there. I don't know that it's right or wrong. I just know that it's possible.
Well, some of us believe we've been here forever.
Yes.
And that we're all creating this.
Yeah, well, there's no new water.
No.
There's no new air.
No.
There's no, I mean, all we do, we're the great rearrangers. Old Testament says there's nothing new under the sun, and that's probably one of the most truthful sayings of all. And people go, of course there's something new. We got TVs and cars and trains and I'm like, no. That stuff is just us rearranging what was already here.
If you look at it, back in the day, you'd find the information. You just may have to hunt for it.
Mm-hmm.
The internet has provided us a fast track
Yeah.
to gaining information, whether that information is correct or disinformation or misinformation, because
Right.
that's the problem right now is when you look something up.
Sure.
And with all these new Google algorithms and YouTube censoring so many different videos and stuff, it's kind of hard to find current information, actually maybe even historical information because it's been changed. It's literally 1984
Yeah.
to some
George
respect.
Orwell.
Yeah, I mean, Ingersoll is literally changing history or suppressing history. But the internet literally gives everybody at a fingertip the ability to reach out and get information or at least a response quickly. And it's been amazing for me because I can literally, track how my information and how I've woken up to really the maturity of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
I've really grown with that, but it's kind of a double-edged sword in that I think the internet was created for a reason. Some people think that maybe it was a control reason or whatever, but it was for people to connect with each other and marketing and everything else. But at the end of the day, it's provided easy information for people to find.
Sure.
And through that, they've empowered themselves.
Yeah.
And once you empower yourself and society empowers itself with information, they'll know
Yeah.
right from wrong or truth from lies.
Yeah.
And then you won't be able to really control or govern them as much.
No,
and I think you're seeing that.
And
right
the
now.
beautiful thing about the information is, even look at the word information, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's this formation of inward knowledge.
I never thought of that word
Yeah.
like that.
So
but you're right.
so like inspiration, it's inward spirit, and then we expire. We inspire and expire with each and every breath. We live and die with every breath. So, but going back to information, information is a segment or a connection to language, which is proof beyond the shadow of a doubt that there's something greater than us that's out there, in here, everywhere, all things. See, because without this language and information, I mean, you can't touch it, you can't hold it,
But you can feel it.
but you can feel it,
Yeah.
and you can convey it to someone else.
It's the it's something that you're not aware of until something happens where you're jolted into thinking, oh wow, that maybe there is more beyond what I see, feel, sense, hear, touch, taste.
Yeah. I mean, you're in front of a computer, you're writing a document. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. It's intangible. It's just stuff. It's information, And even if you print it out, it's really just a sheet of paper. It's what's the information contained on the paper in language form, which makes all the difference in the world.
It is just stuff because it's external to us, but once we take the information from it and put it inside of us, then it becomes a part of us.
Of everything.
Of everything.
Of all things.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you brought up when you're talking about Satan, I think that Satan, and I don't mean to be funny. It kind of feels strange just to say Satan,
Yeah.
But I think we can just
Saturday
use that
Night
as a
Live and
bookmark. Yeah. We can use that as a bookmark or a footnote to dark energy presence that's literally affecting every aspect of what we do.
Sure.
And I see that. I see the delineation between good and evil very clearly now, where before I didn't. It was more blurred, but people are choosing sides right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost that they're forcing us to choose sides. It's kind of like this left, right, Republican, Democrat paradigm. And I've studied, when you look through history,
Polarity.
it's polarity. But what it does, it divides people.
It does.
And if you give people 3 or 4 choices, you don't have that division. If you just give them one choice, obviously you don't have it. But maybe that's not very, diplomatic. But the fact is that our system and a lot of systems are based on this 2-party system to pit one group against another. And I find myself not really having trouble agreeing to everything on one side or the other. I mean, I'm like, hey, it's almost like you have the left wing and the right wing. And if you think of an airplane, you don't fly on the wings, do you?
No, you don't.
No, you fly in the middle.
You
in the
can't
fuselage.
fly with one wing.
No, you can't fly with one wing either. So if there's one wing, there has to be another wing.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah. So it's funny you should bring that up because in my mind, I'm picturing a scale.
Yeah,
So
it's
you're
a
always
scale.
putting stuff on one side and stuff on the other side, but that's all the work. The place where there is no work is right in the center, where the perfect balance is.
See, that's
It just is.
The plane will fly if it's balanced.
Right.
And if it has a problem, it crashes.
Exactly.
So we have to decide where we're going next because we do have a choice, and it's a big. Well, I mean, it's a heavy burden. All of us are at least in the conscious community where we see how things are unraveling and we want to kind of yell out, but we know that sometimes that doesn't help.
Yeah.
But people are picking sides, and I see, I can't sit here and say one side's right, one side's wrong. Obviously there is an ultimate truth, but hopefully we'll get there. But there is...
Yeah, and the ultimate truth is there is no right or wrong. There just is.
There just is. There's just the experience.
Right.
This is what I saw when
And the observer. We're not the experience. We are the one who's watching.
Yeah.
What it is you're looking for is what is looking.
And the conscious observer affects all
Everything.
outcomes, everything.
Yeah.
So once you...
Without the observer, there's nothing to be observed.
That's true. You can get back to the tree falling in the forest.
Right.
But,
If there's nobody there to hear it. Yeah, exactly. So
it doesn't really matter, though.
No, it doesn't matter.
It's
Matter.
Yeah, matter.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you talked about Satan, and for me, it's funny. Growing up, I had this, this fear that I was being watched.
You were.
Yeah, yeah, and by this evil anthropomorphized entity that somehow found its way to be equal to God Almighty, even though scripturally speaking, if you wanted to anthropomorphize Satan and turn him into a being, biblically speaking, he always had to have permission from God to do anything.
Did you actually see a vision of this too?
No,
Or
it was just fear.
fear.
There's fear and love. That's it. It all comes down to fear and love, and it was just this fear of you better watch out, you better not pout. Even Santa Claus was watching my butt.
In fact, I think you're the one that told me this, that the opposite of love is fear and not hate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because fear will
Yeah.
breed all these different negative.
All of the
feelings,
negative emotions fall
emotions.
into that same folder.
Yeah.
And all the positive emotions fall into the folder of love. And love is the creative substance of all things. Without
It's-
love, there is no law of attraction. Without love, there's no creation. Without love, there is no cohesion. There's no the atoms won't stick together. I mean, it's important.
It's the highest vibration we can tap into.
Right.
And when you're really on that love vibe,
Yeah.
there's nothing else
No.
that's better. It's literally, it's pure joy.
Yeah. And it is the default.
I believe that. Yeah. I think
So
it takes
in order
more
to see
energy
it-
to fear and hate.
Yeah.
Love is the simplest vibration to sink into. I think it's our natural.
Yeah, and just
Calling.
like swimming, and just like this experience that we call life, not my life, not your life, but just life.
Life in general.
And it is the experience that qualifies it. So if you grow up in a castle, filthy rich, and never leave the castle, and all is provided for you at all times, you don't know what it's like for life to suck. You can hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
People can say, well, there are these people that live on the street, and this guy was, digging through a dumpster for dinner last night. You go, oh, okay, well, what's for dinner? You don't really feel it,
No.
But should you leave that castle? It's the story of the prodigal son, right? So you leave the castle, you go out into the world, you see the ways of the world, you experience all these things, and then you realize, God, I had it good. But I didn't know that was good until I found out what was ungood.
Well, the grass is always greener, even on the castle lawn. I mean, too many people look at that and say, "Oh, well, that's a lifestyle
Yeah.
that I want. This
Yeah.
is the American dream," or this. When I finally get to that point,
Yeah.
I'll achieve happiness.
Yeah.
But that's not how it is. It's an illusion.
Yeah.
Happiness can be right now in this
Sure.
now moment. It doesn't have to be in a future. Oh, when I get this, I mean, yeah, it's nice to get that shiny new car,
Right.
Or the bigger house and stuff. But
Yep. And happiness is when you're able to convert it to an inward event, it becomes joy. Because happiness is kind of an outside circumstance.
yeah, notice how when I defined happiness, I used materialistic
Exactly.
external objects,
Exactly.
which
So
really,
you
at
go
the
to-
end of the day, have,
You go to happy hour, right? And you're happy. Everybody's happy.
well, it
you're
has to be
tossing them
happy
back.
because they call it happy hour.
Right.
They don't call it fear hour or
Right, but after that's over, you go back to your life again, and you may not be so happy.
right, and it may
But
be
if
longer
you're
than
but if you're experiencing joy at all times,
right.
then it's always happy hour.
Well, happy hour is kind of like one of these forced, kind of
Yeah.
like you're gonna go there and have fun,
Right.
Because it's happy hour,
Right. It's the song of the day. When you hear the song of the day, call in and you win.
Right.
Yeah, I hear you.
Speaking of the song of the day, the music. You having been a DJ in
Yeah.
in your previous life and worked with all the entertainment business and all these people. I
Right.
mean, you were involved in every aspect of it. I don't know how we got here, but music, and I just want to bring this out, that it's deteriorated. There's no substance much to it anymore. I don't mean to be offensive. There's some great musicians out
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
but they're not being played on mainstream music.
No.
They're not, and it seems like the music's deteriorated to a point where, there's very little vibrational love being put into it.
Right.
Um,
Lyrics have deteriorated.
right.
Structural, the music structure itself is shot. You forget the intro, verse, chorus, bridge, key change,
Even the chord
instrumental
progressions.
solo. Yeah, it's all sampled. It's horrible. I'm really disappointed in the music industry these days.
The chord progressions that they put out don't resonate with us, and as you know, music has been retuned.
Yeah, and it's off tune.
It's off tune, and the actual frequency that they telegraph out on the airwaves to us is actually disharmonious with us,
Right.
actually with our body chemistry.
Right.
So I can't remember whether it's 438 or 444 hertz or whatever. I don't want to get too technical here, but
Yeah,
people are going to be like looking up on the internet. Oh,
Right,
what is
right.
it?
Well, the whole do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do is all the frequencies have been jumbled. They've been changed.
But see, I'm going to bring this back full circle because everything's connected. So what's causing this deterioration in music quality? Has everything been written? Has everything been done? I mean, did the Beatles do it all? I mean, is it over? Is it time for a new type of music to evolve, something completely different? Or are we just going to go down the same path? And I don't mean to be disrespectful. I mean, I happen to like, some modern music. But the kids, and I call them kids, the youth,
Yeah.
they listen to rap music, and let's be honest, rap music just doesn't possess the qualities of intro, verse, chorus, bridge. Doesn't have the chord progressions. It doesn't resonate with us. It's kind of like a monotone kind of repetitive thing.
Yeah.
And this puts us, I'm not sure if that really gives us joy or
Well,
happiness.
it's spoken word put to musical form.
But the quality of lyrics, again, you mentioned it. Every other word is a cuss word.
Yeah.
And then what that does is the people listen to it, and then they imitate this. And I see people putting out videos, and they're just talking.
Yeah.
And they sound like, a little white girl's trying to be like a rapper, just talking, to her friends and stuff like this. It's almost like an attitude.
Right.
And that's, I don't know if you boil that down to a form of ego or whether it's insecurity, but at any rate, I think it ties into this fear factor,
Yeah.
or at least the satanic doings behind the scene. Kind of like, hey, come on down to the dark side. Everyone's throwing.
Hey, buddy.
Hey. But you see these people, they throw up the devil horns, and and they're just.
Yeah.
It's almost as if there's no love or God in the equation.
Earlier, we talked about being preoccupied, and we should also talk about. We talked about distraction, and we should also talk about being preoccupied. But I think a lot of people today are just so preoccupied with all the things that they think they have to do, and the cell phone, and the tablet, and the computers, and the emails, and the TV shows, and the TiVos, and blah 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 blah, that there just isn't any time set aside for expansion of mind.
No, and
or knowledge.
the time that
Just
people
isn't
think
any time.
the time that people think that they'll use productively is like, okay, it's 10:30, 11. I'm going to bed. I have to go to work, and they lay down in their bed.
Yeah.
And then this is where they say, okay, well, I'm going to sift through all my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is we end up getting sidetracked. We start worrying about, oh, I've got that 8 o'clock meeting. That means I got to wake up at this time. I've got to drive here.
Mm-hmm.
Where am I going to have breakfast? And then you worry about all the things you have to do during that day. You're not giving yourself any free thought or the ability just to completely, in a quiet, reflective mode,
Right.
just to think.
Yeah.
And
When I was a kid, I'd go ride my bike for
Sure.
hours. I'd fly a kite for hours. And my mind was not on anything else but riding that bike and flying that kite and what's the world all about?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
I had time for free thought. I had time for, trying to assemble concepts and ideas. I didn't have to answer that phone call or answer that text, or
You
all
just,
of those things that are such distractions
well, you
today.
just solved the world problem. We need to be in the moment.
Yeah.
And too many people, as we get into adults, when we get older, we take more on.
Mhm.
There's no two ways about it. You signed up for it.
Right.
It's unavoidable. I mean, you're not going to live in a cave or a hut without, off the grid,
Right.
unless you
Unless you want
choose
to.
unless you choose to do that. But
Yeah.
it's even harder to do that now. The grid is encroaching
Yeah.
on these people that
Right.
are off the grid.
Right.
You see all the cell towers going.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's horrible. We had a friend of ours call us that was just trying to escape technology, and because they were starting to feel pretty bad with the cell towers and smart meters and things like that were around their house. So this is down in Florida. They took a weekend and they went to one of the Florida wilderness campground areas.
Right.
Only to find that tree over there was a cell tower.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So and there's Wi-Fi everywhere.
Looks like a
and-
tree.
Yeah, it looks like just like a tree. I mean, they have cell towers now that look like crosses.
I saw
for,
one
for
that's like a
churches,
cactus.
cactuses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, and it generates a lot of income, so people won't say no.
Right.
But it is affecting us. That's for another day. And
Oh, yeah,
another
yeah,
chat.
yeah.
But yeah, when we look at these forces of darkness and light, they both must exist. We have to have darkness to have light. We have to have light to have darkness. You know what I mean? There's a great line at the end of the movie Legend that Tom Cruise was in, where Tim Curry plays a character called Darkness. It's basically the devil, and he says towards the end of the movie, he says, "You and I are brothers eternal. For what is darkness without light, and what is light without darkness?" And
Well, what is light without darkness? I mean, the thing is that when you really look at it, if you boil it down, you can have a room full of darkness, and once you introduced the littlest bit of light,
yeah, matchstick.
matchstick,
Yeah.
the room changes.
Yeah.
The area changes.
It's a
But
flash light, not a flash
Right.
dark.
But if you
Right.
if you have a little bit of light and you throw more darkness at it, it doesn't really affect it. So
Yeah.
that shows you the power of light.
Exactly.
Light is love. Love is consciousness. And
And
this-
consciousness is light.
and light. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a circle, but
Yeah.
it's all connected in that this is where people need to make a decision
Yeah.
today. Am I going to follow the light, truth, or am I going to be misled? And this is where people have to take the time during the day to just sit quietly, or however you want to do it. I mean, some
Yeah.
people use meditation.
Yeah,
In
go
fact,
for a walk through the woods, whatever. Yeah.
I've had a lot of people say, well, do you meditate? And I'm like, well, you know what? They think of meditation as being, sitting on the floor in some, exactly. Your hands and you're in this all pose and stuff. Maybe that's how some people do it, but I
Right.
don't think there's a right way or wrong way.
Right.
I think taking yourself out of all the stressful doings and just put yourself in the now moment of thinking about who you are,
Yeah.
what your purpose here is,
Right.
and how you're going to align yourself and how you're going to conduct yourself.
Sure.
Listen, I'm not perfect. I mean, I'm not sure if you are either. None of us may be, but
No, but we're part of something that's perfection in its ability to be in its ability to have experiential evidence.
you have to take yourself into it.
Yeah.
Because it's not. And the amazing thing is, there's a synchronicity that's going around where everything is a message to you. You may not realize how your life
Yeah. You
lays
just
out,
have to
but
choose whether you're going to receive it or not.
exactly. So if you're paying attention,
Yeah.
but I think this messaging is coming to everybody right now. Kind of what you need
Mm-hmm.
is what you'll get,
Right.
and if you ignore it, then it's going to persist.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will latch on to different aspects of this. But if something's just not going right in your life, and you want to know why, and it just keeps persisting. You're not
Pay
paying
attention.
Pay attention.
Yeah, listen within.
Understand that you're not, whatever you're doing is you're gonna have to maybe do a change.
It's going to keep biting your ankle until you pay attention to it.
And then I think once you do pay attention and you get the message,
Yeah.
you're off to another level, so to speak.
Yeah, it all just kind of dissipates.
It
You know,
does.
You
But
got.
then
You
there's-
talked about consciousness earlier, but Genesis opens up and says, "And then there was light." Yet, several days later during creation, the sun is created. So what is that all about? The light in the beginning was the light of consciousness, because this is the origin of all things. So, and then there was light. This is light of light. You are the light of the world. You are, consciousness is light. That divine spark is a spark of light. It is a photon, powerful enough to light a light bulb
Sure.
that's in us. And so
It's like Uncle Fester. He had the light. He had the energy and the light.
exactly.
See, somehow we may be able to all do that.
Maybe, you never
If
know.
the light bulb was the right type of, well, they say there's energy everywhere.
Yeah. So, well, if you held the bulb and it was a low enough voltage, and you actually touched a source of electricity,
Right.
that electricity can conduct through you
Sure.
and light the bulb.
Yeah.
You know.
Isn't that what Tesla freaked everyone out of?
Right. But you have to have the source.
There you go.
Everything has to have a source.
Right.
Yeah. So, how about we wrap it up with that?
I think that sounds great. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay, man.
Thanks, boss.
Take care.
Yep. You too.
Bye.
You've been listening to Quantum Flow Radio. Email us online at quantumflowradio@gmail.com.